Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is October 18th and we've got to get some stuff done because there's a new expansion. We had to play our arena, so we get a ticket to arena, and we need to do the tavern brawl and play 30 more shaman cards in the Americas server, and then we can move over to the European server. We've got Cake Boss on the chat talking. He's talking about Skyrim. He says Skyrim wants to make you spend about an hour just creating your character, which is true. And at the very least, I think Bethesda could use that to its own advantage. If tomorrow, instead of announcing Fallout Shelter or something like that for Skyrim, they announced a character creator where you could actually 3D model and paint your character and work on it, and say that this character will be importable to Elder Scrolls Online, or even importable to the next Elder Scrolls game. That would be amazing and keep a lot of people satisfied for a while, but probably not long enough for the wait of the next Elder Scrolls game, assuming they even make one. They may just make too much money from the online. So we're doing ShiftCon as far as the Tavern Brawl. Swap stories with fellow shifters in the Tavern Shifter Convention. Choose a class, we'll fill it with shifters and spells. So if I just pick Shaman here, then it will fill my deck with a bunch of random Shaman cards, which is an easy thing to deal with. Because I'm not doing an arena run anymore, I can start covering the news. I was holding back on that. Turns out that Freddy Krueger is coming to Dead by Daylight, which is surprising on a couple different levels. That Dead by Daylight is still trying to be a thing as far as a game. And Leatherface and Michael Myers were already in the game. I guess he might show up during Halloween. I guess that would make sense. They kind of dropped the ball though, because Friday the 13th, like, I know Freddy Krueger is from Nightmare on Elm Street, but they should have done it on Friday the 13th anyways. Let's see. Dying Light is launching a free content drop #1 with weapons and bounties. Dying Light is still a thing too, interestingly enough. Dying Light deserves to still be a thing. A game people are playing. I should actually use words instead of just using the phrase thing. Because they've been doing a lot to keep it fresh and new. But they are also kind of treating what is, in my mind, a single-player game as more of a multiplayer game like Destiny or something. It's... Your magic shall not save. See. It's planning on giving 10 free DLCs over the next 12 months. Content Drop 0 marked the first, and Content Drop 1 named Lethal Innovations is the second. And so we're now into the Lethal Innovations expansion. So they'll get a little bit of news. Let's see, max cost. Deal 2 damage. Draw a pirate from your deck. That won't even work. How about we devolve you? And then deal 2 damage. There we go. Let's see. Here's a virtual reality game I was looking at. VR games I don't really talk about. This one actually looks interesting. I guess that's why I bought it. It's called The Gallery Episode 2 Heart of the Emberstone. Requires a VR headset. Like, we need Steam or somebody to figure out a way to make every single game that comes out for VR in some form or fashion playable without VR. Like, there's just gonna be at least a couple hundred games that will come out during this first generation of attempts at making VR happen, and those games will never get updated or fixed in a way that you could play them with a regular game. There probably is a way to simulate VR, to DVR something, but depending on how integrated the motion tracking is, might affect whether you could actually control it. Whenever friendly minion dies, gain +1. Here's an interesting expansion. Fire Emblem Warriors has a DLC pack that includes 3 new playable characters, and on top of that, unless I am thinking of a different game. Yeah, let me cover that one later. Fire Emblem Warriors first add-on pack comes December 31st. I heard that I saw one review at least where people liked the idea of combining Fire Emblem and Dynasty Warriors together, and they weren't particularly a fan of Dynasty Warriors or Fire Emblem to begin with, but combined they found something that they liked. Now I do need to get a victory on this Tavern Brawl, but in the meanwhile, as long as I'm playing Shaman cards, I'm also succeeding.
What you want?
There's a game called Slice, Dice, and Rice coming to PlayStation 4. I think I've already covered this. But is it coming to the West or just Japan? Some of these are in Japan. Seems like it's just coming to Japan right now, but I think that this is a easy enough game to translate because it's a fighting game that I think we'll see people actually bother to translate it over. It looks kind of moody in its thing. One of the big stories here, I guess I really don't have too much to say about this. Activision patents a matchmaking concept. They call it a technology, but it's not really in this article. That would push players who haven't bought any microtransaction or any kind of elements like weapons or clothing. It would push players to buy more microtransactions by matching players who haven't bought it with players who have bought a lot of things. Effectively, in some instances, making sure that players who buy microtransactions that affect your gameplay will succeed because they'll be matched against weaker players that haven't bought microtransaction things. This might be an instance in which I'll win. This is a patent and they won the patent, but a lot of times patents don't get used, and on the other hand, now that Activision has a patent over this, I guess other people can't use that without licensing it. However, this is Activision Blizzard we're talking about, who are very greedy, the company of Hearthstone, so I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we see something like Hearthstone using this patent. So as somebody who hasn't bought many card packs, I might get matched up against people who have bought lots of card packs and have lots of cards. that would be a prime example of where this patent would be bad for the player base. But as much as I play Hearthstone, I do have to always remember Activision Blizzard's not my friend, and they're very greedy, and it's easy enough to remember that because they make it pretty obvious. And frankly, a patent like that I wouldn't trust in the hands of very many companies at all in the video game industry. So 2, 4, 6 damage right now. So the Toys to Life concept of having real world toys that then represent some kind of physical DLC that's in games has not been super successful lately. Disney had Disney Infinity, which they shut down. The what are they called? Skyforce, Skylanders, I think it was the other one. Oddly, I believe Electronic Arts actually does have a Toys to Life that they are working on bringing to the market, and that's probably going to fail. And then the most successful one so far has been the Lego Dimensions. However, sadly, Lego Dimensions never came out for PC, and there are individual Lego games that are pretty good that are also making money. So it was this odd combination of you were selling two very different products from the same company, developed by the same company. TT Games is the one that makes Lego games, and they're mostly a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. So I'm gonna get rid of this custom paladin, or let's just make sure. No, I can just play this overload deck. I don't even have to make a new deck to play the Shaman cards. So we're just going to come over here and play a little ranked play. Might as well get those ranked wins in while we can. Trying to get to 500 so we can get a gold character. That will never happen, probably. But Lego Dimensions is now being sped up. They haven't officially canceled it, but from this report, it's been going for 3 years, and I think they're going to work their way to not doing any more Lego Dimensions. Lego Dimensions, as far as an idea of a game, has some problems because with every new season they really had to put out a bigger and bigger patches, because any content that they hadn't pre-programmed and put on that disc would have to just be added via DLC to consoles that don't have an incredible amount of extra space in the first place. And the games, Lego Dimensions, just got bigger and bigger and bigger with the more toys you bought if you bought level packs. And there were 3 types of packs, I guess, to explain. There were level packs, there were character packs that unlocked skins of new characters or new characters in general, and then there were I believe season expansion packs. So like you really needed to buy the season expansion pack, which the last season expansion pack was, I think, based on the what was it? It was based on the new Ghostbusters movie, which was a flop. So that probably didn't help it much either. I played too strong there, and because I played too strong, he just conceded, which runs counter to my goal of actually playing cards. I need to play 23. I'm a big Lego fan, so I did want to get the Lego Dimensions thing. So Dimensions second year was centered around the larger, more expansive story packs instead of Dimensions original universe crossing story. Like, the original story had characters coming all over it. And a lot of the characters in LEGO Dimensions didn't seem like they were even targeted or made any sense for kids. Like, Powerpuff Girls, it has like a little bit of a resurgence now, but honestly, I don't think when that expansion came out made sense other than for people who remembered the cartoon when it first came out. So in the United States, Toys R Us recently declared bankruptcy, and my question is, maybe those toys will go on sale and we could collect the Legos. I could collect the Legos really cheaply without ever actually playing the game and the minifigs, because that would be kind of cool, but I bet that's not the case. I bet it just goes up in price because there's certainly a lot of Lego collectors out there that will see this as an opportunity for something that is less likely to be collected. And almost everything in LEGO Dimensions will get its own individual game. Like, there's a few things that don't make sense. Like the what is that, guys? Gremlins. Like, the Gremlins character probably not gonna get a LEGO game eventually, but Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, a Sonic LEGO game makes sense. Adventure Time LEGO game makes sense. I think they really have to destroy LEGO Dimensions just so they can use those assets to create more regular LEGO games. Let's see. I'm trying to play here so I can play this card before I overload. But again, that may just cause me to win, but I don't mind. If we got up to rank 15 or something here, that'd be great. I really wanted to see LEGO Dimensions come to PC, but in the meantime, while LEGO Dimensions was happening, they were working on a beta game of a different LEGO game that came to PC, and then they kind of did a 180 and changed the game completely and released it on PC, and it didn't sell that well either. So it was originally going to be this open sandbox area with no story, and then they changed it, and I don't even remember what that one was called. And they put in a story that was pretty bad. I think we've lost Cake Boss, or my chat has just messed up. Oh well. We lost him right when I wrapped up the first recording, so I don't know if he didn't realize I was gonna keep on streaming, or maybe he had to go. It's a shame. It's always a shame when the chat is going good and then it goes quiet. Maybe somebody else will hop into the chat and start talking. Star Ocean is coming to PC for the first time on November 28th with 4K support and Steam achievements. Square Enix is going to be bringing it over. Star Ocean The Last Hope is what it will be called. It was a console game from 2009 on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I think it's got a pretty big fan following. It's, you know, probably a lesser Final Fantasy game set in more of a science fiction world. Oh I'm looking at the Steam website. It's rated teen, and nobody's reviewed it yet because they haven't. It's not out yet, obviously. This is one of those games where I'm gonna have to wait and see if people love it because it's still a good game, or if people love it because they're nostalgic for it. Either one of those could be the case. In a weird twist, I think this is a really, really weird twist. The Sony Music Entertainment has decided to open its own games publishing label. And it has announced 4 games so far. So Sony Entertainment Organization, or Sony Entertainment Online, SEO, I think is the main company that was running PlayStation and everything, and still is. And the person in charge of that was stepping down and working towards his retirement. And now this feels like almost a blatant announcement of no intent to cooperate with a different department in your mega corporation. Like, it's really crazy to think that if you were working in a job and your department was in charge of handling the mail, if the department next door that was in charge of something completely different said, we're going to start our own mail office and just compete against each other. The only thing I could think here is that maybe there was an internal desire to have a separation, and Sony Music Entertainment is going to be publishing video games that are only really based around their selling their labels and their singers, and maybe putting music in their own games. I wouldn't be surprised if that was exactly the case, actually. Is that they just wanted to they wanted to promote their own music labels things. Do this. Deal. I can't target that one. So do this. And then do this. There we go. The first game they have is called Tiny Metal. I'm gonna watch the trailer for that. Let's see. It looks like a cheap mobile game, just people fighting each other in tanks, and the CG is pretty big, but this might be just a cutscene. Yeah, it changed now to actual gameplay, and it's almost a tower defense style thing. And the cutscene that I'm seeing it's not even well animated if you know it's a cutscene. Yep. So maybe there's some major music being licensed and played back here. Maybe this is the next scam in the music industry, is that they're going to license their own music to video games, so people might play those video games, and then YouTube can content ID and run ads against them to get the music company more money. That's kind of what they do right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're now trying to encourage it on both ends. Like, honestly though, Sony Music has not given me a lot of trouble, because I think they operate under a different name that you wouldn't recognize it was as Sony. I think it might be UMG, a Universal Music Group, is Sony or something. Whereas Warner Brothers has given me trouble, and there's a few other ad revenue for third party. Gives everybody trouble and they're fraudulent, as far as I can tell. And there's a couple others as far as music in video games, but they're not terrible. Well, I've been very lucky. The next game is called Last Standard Short, and it's a PV, a 3D action game with a pretty dull trailer. Some kind of psychodrive system. And see, this looks like a fighting game where you walk down a street alley and fight people in this alley, and I wouldn't be surprised after you beat somebody if you just continue walking down this ever continuing moving alley, or maybe it takes you out of the menu. It is a fighting game though. It's a 3D fighting game with weapons, which seems a little weird. See, the next one is called Markova Avalanche, and I think PV means something in Japanese. These all seem to be coming directly from Japan. These are all very heavily Japanese influenced games. And like, I just watched that trailer and I didn't even get anything on there. Best I can tell, you're some kind of robot that is running on wheels, that's running in the desert and fighting. I mean, it seems very much like it's the exact same as the previous game, except for this time you're a robot and you're in the desert versus being in the city. And that was 3 games. So and they're using this new phrase called unties instead of indies. It's UNTIES, as in unties, as how I would pronounce that. And they're using that as a phrase to indicate that this is excellent talents of unique game creators all over the world unleashed. So you're unleashing these indies by not actually having them be independent because they have a publisher. And 3 of these games are coming to PC, and frankly none of them look interesting enough to be on PC at all. So I don't think Sony Music Entertainment is going to start on the right foot if they are going to be one of the new publishers out there. Maybe it would be a good thing if there was a new publisher out there to take over some of the spots of Ubisoft and EA and Konami. A lot of those companies are not making a lot of games, or they're not making a lot of people happy. But I don't think for a second Sony's gonna do it right. If Sony as a major corporation has taught me one thing, it's that if they can screw something up, they will screw something up. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's get rid of this guy. New releases on Steam are expected to reach 6,000 this year. They've already had more games released on Steam because of Steam Direct mostly in 2017 than all of 2016, which isn't saying too much really when you consider we're in October. Like, if this happened in February, then that would be a little bit more shocking. A game called Brawlhalla, which is a PC version of a Smash Brothers clone, has come out of early access. And I find that a little suspicious and surprising because I thought there was a lot more work to do on it. And if it's coming out of early access this early, I don't particularly see that as a inherently good thing. It makes me wonder if they're giving up on it and that's as good as it's gonna get. Now Smash Brothers, a major part of its interest is that you were playing as Mario fighting other Nintendo characters, or you're playing as some Nintendo character fighting other Nintendo characters. Brawlhalla doesn't have any of that to lean on. It looks very much like Smash Brothers, but all the characters are new, and that's gonna be an issue. Get really lucky and hit 6 damage. Darn it. Nope. Watching the trailer. Let's see. Let's go to their Steam site. It's not incredibly expensive, and it's got very good reviews as far as all reviews. But I wonder if there's any recent reviews that say anything confusing. Like, so if I sort by negative and say show graph, I like this new graph that they've added to Steam, but they hide the graph so you don't even see it unless you want to see it. There's a lot of good reviews in June 2010 starting there, and then it got some major coverage I think in 2016 because there's a huge spike in reviews, and then they really weren't getting any negative reviews until it started getting coverage, which probably means that all of its reviews before that point were not really that legitimate. However, I have been noticing that the number of positive reviews are going down. There's a downward trope, but it's still very far ahead. Let's see. Date range. Only a specific range. Let's see. So you have to use the graph now to see a specific range of reviews. Interesting. Let's see.
That's not a valid target.
Just go ahead and play these cards. Let's see. Recent posts. I sent a bug report and devs haven't fixed it for years. I have 320 negative 320 mammoth coins and I can't use any of the skins I bought. Interesting. Awful boring, no instructions. Everybody is a tryhard and you get them matched with people who have been sunk thousands of hours into this game. 0 out of 10. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Doesn't seem like those are particularly valid negative reviews, if I'm gonna be fair. Let's see. Here's something not in English. So Brawlhalla seems like it's probably fine as a game. Seems like kind of just some general people that didn't like the game. You can't make everybody happy. There is a 32-player international prize pool that they're doing, so they're definitely trying to make this an esports game, which might easily push Brawlhalla away from being something interesting for regular players. But that's, I guess, just a risk you have to take with a fighting game like that. I guess I now need to see somebody to actually play it now that it is out of early access and see how how that really works.
Azeroth will be purified.
Moving on to the next news story, mixed reality startup Magic Leap secures $502 million in funding, which is kind of ridiculous because if it's the Magic Leap I remember, it's already gotten a lot of funding. Magic Leap is just a device supposed to be used in augmented reality and be able to see where all 10 of your fingers are in front of your monitor or in front of your hands. Yeah, and Google's invested $542 million, and they got another $500 million, and then it got another $793 million from investors in China. So this company is getting a lot of investment, so it's either going to be an amazing success or a huge waste of people's money. There's a report that the UK development team of Sumo Digital is preparing to go public. They're the creators of Little Big Planet 3 and Snake Pass, which was a game that came out recently and I wanted to play, and Crackdown 3, which is is about to go public. Ooh, this could be bad for them though. Like, in general, I don't want companies to be public. But that's just kind of my own personal thing. I wish all video game companies could just focus on making video games and not satisfying stockholders. But Little Big Planet 3, good game, not a huge success. And Snake Pass, good game, not a huge success. And Crackdown 3 is been delayed. It feels more like they're about to go public to save themselves, not to ride the wave of success. If you told me CD Projekt Red was about to go public, I'd believe, oh, that's because The Witcher 3 was a huge success and they want to make as much money as possible off of that. But this is the exact opposite of that case. Yeah. Well, we are done with the Americas account, so now it's time to quit out and switch to the, let's see, European account. Why not? We still got a large amount of news, and we've still got a lot of time. Now about 10 minutes in this recording. And in this instance, I have all 3 of my daily quests done, so I need to play and make some progress here. Divine Shielded Minions, Druid and Hunter, and Warlock class cards. So let's play as a Warlock on the Tavern Brawl while I cover the news. But I am going to have to start an arena run, and I think I'll start it next recording. Warlock, there we go, and begin. I need a victory on the Tavern Brawl. I need to play Warlock cards. Here's a game I've been keeping my eye on because it just seems like a very strange game to even come out of Japan, because the Japanese people directly connect having tattoos with being in the mob, the Yakuza. And here's this game called Tokyo Tattoo Girls, which is just not something you would see appealing to the Japanese market. And yet I'm watching this trailer and you're seeing a lot of anime girls getting full back tattoos and similar. It does look like Yakuza tattoos to me. And I don't know if they do anything else in this game. It seems like this might be a sticker placing game, except for instead of placing stickers, you're placing tattoos. It's coming out for the PC and the PS Vita. November 14th in the North America, November 17th in Europe. And I'm seeing a lot of characters, but I'm not seeing any real fighting or anything. Like, so I still don't know what this game is about. It keeps throwing me for a loop. Like, is this really just a game where you just put tattoos on the backs of girls? It might be. Yeah, there's a lot of Japanese games that are just not much to them. Let's see. Is this game, or is this? Yeah, I'm looking at Rock Paper Shotgun, a subsidiary of the same major company as PC Gamer, and they're just promoting like a comic site. It's not even video game related. Let's just play this. So yeah, that's not really news worth mentioning because it's just an advertisement. Next game we have is one called Hakioki Edo Blossoms. That's Hakuoki, which is coming to the West in spring of 2018. Let's see what kind of game this is from Japan. It's always interesting to cover these games because they don't get much coverages. Probably for a good reason. They show up and they're available, but they're not really on store shelves or anything. Death Rattle cards cost 2 less. Let's do that. That'll be interesting. And whenever this attacks, add a random minion card to your hand from your opponent's class. Let's do this. Let's see. It has multiple endings, 12 charming bachelors. Okay, so it's a visual novel romance game. And that's the main reason why these Japanese games don't get any coverage, is that most of them look very interesting in the trailer or in a still picture, but once you see that they're just a visual novel game, they're like too much commitment and not worth your time. Too much talking, too much reading. Nintendo is bringing its Project Arms update, which will bring replays and a badge-based achievement system. So that will be ARMS 3.2. Is it called Project Arms, or is it just called ARMS? I guess it's just called ARMS. Just watch the trailer on that. I will cover Nintendo things even if I don't play the games. Might as well. Deal damage to the minions next to it. Interesting. And then destroy friendly minions and distort. Let's see. Let's just do this. That should work. The ARMS game, I guess if you can't get a regular Punch-Out game, which I guess you can't, maybe it's just too violent to have a regular boxing game these days, I guess ARMS is the closest you're going to get. It's kind of surprising that somebody else doesn't try to make some kind of boxing game or MMA game, but even Electronic Arts has no interest in covering sports that aren't the major sports.
Just me and Mr. Bitey.
Let's watch this Kickstarter. I covered a Kickstarter before last time. They're usually a waste of time, but let's see what this trailer looks like. Well, it's not in English. It's for a point-and-click adventure game. It has a goal of $94,000, and it's only gotten $4,000 and has 26 days to go. And I don't think this one's gonna succeed because its animation style is a little rough. It has a style like you might see on some of the Adult Swim things, but it's a little jittery too. Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna succeed, so I'll tell the name. It's called Shadow of the Mask, but as always, I don't think people should fund Kickstarters. League of Legends World Championships is getting its own montage video. Can we see it? Or I guess this is the video I'm watching. It's kind of like the Overwatch videos, I think, in part just advertisement. So I just basically read a PC Gamer article that was an advertisement for an advertisement. Like, no real news there. Team Meat, makers of Super Meat Boy Forever, which is coming out eventually, says it probably won't be for free, which I guess is good to know. But I don't know if there really was any question about it ever being free.
Give me a quest.
Don't mess with me.
Let's see, stealth. I can't play this card, sadly. Well, I can, but it would make no sense to do it. Former Visceral designer says Dead Space 2 cost $60 million to develop and underperformed. The game sold 4 million copies and that wasn't enough. Interesting there, because if Dead Space 2 was at $60 for 4 million copies, which, alright, let's say that that's true, then 6 times 4 would be $240 million. You subtract the $60 million to develop, and you assume that $60 million includes the paying of all the employees and everything that would require to develop that game. I don't get it. How can 60 million be bigger than 240 million? That's not a underperformer in my book. You made money. But then again, EA didn't want to just make money. They wanted to make a lot of money, and that's why they put a bunch of microtransactions in Dead Space 3 and ruined it and frustrated everybody, and that's why EA has now decided to shut down Visceral completely, and we'll talk about that later. Let's see. $60 million to make a game is a very useful number when looking at Kickstarters that only want a few $1,000s. Like, there's a major disconnect there. I think even making a small independent game that's going to be good, you're probably talking at least $1 million. And so if a Kickstarter isn't asking for at least $1 million, it's probably not going to actually get finished as a product. And on the other hand, if they are asking for $1 million, they're probably not going to get funded and get that money. So I find that Kickstarter is not helpful either way. I would also argue that $60 million probably twice as much as needs to be spent on the games. these days. Don't make new engines. Don't try to go for 8K graphics and 4K graphics. If you just kind of left the main things, the servers, the microtransactions, the excessively high graphics, if you just kind of let everything be good but not great, you could, in my uneducated guess, you could probably make a game for 30 million and it would still be a AAA title and it would be great. You don't need to hire famous writers that don't even write the games well. You don't need to hire famous voice actors that don't even voice act in games well. There's been a lot of missteps and a lot of flaunting and throwing around money. And of the $60 million for Dead Space 2, if this is an accurate number, how much of that really went to management paychecks? Like, is any of that included, or is none of that included? It's very possible that 45 of the $60 million just were paying research that was unnecessary, managers that were unnecessary, CEOs, stock buyouts, stock buybacks. Could be any number of things. Licensing music at ridiculously high prices. Like, there's so many different ways you could launder money into the budget of a video game. So you could get that up to that ridiculously high number. Well, I'm not playing right now because I'm just trying to wrap up. Next time we will move forward with the arena run, and we need to get at least 2 of these daily quests done. That's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.